chocolate available.
Tell me when you're ready, Spencer.
It's close.
So I'll know when you're at the
They're all here.
Well, Spencer is getting ready. There's dark chocolate and milk chocolate available today. Yes. Our lovely Steve is modeling our chocolate assortment for the evening.
Hey. Evening. Hello. Hi.
We're coming to a semblance of order.
We are. We're trying after summer break. All right. Welcome to the Yellow Springs Board of Education, August 9th, 2018 meeting. I'd like to welcome everybody and welcome our administrators back who've been away for the month of July. Some of them traveling far places and others, I don't know what everybody's done. But anyway, welcome back everybody. I'll call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Aida,
Yes.
Sylvia,
Present.
Steve,
Here.
Steve.
All right, we're going to look at approving the minutes of July 12th, which was a regular meeting, and July 31st. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Anybody have any questions or concerns about those minutes? All right, roll call.
Sylvia,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Aida,
Yes. I guess I should mention that our fifth board member, Sean Creighton, has resigned from his position as of July 31st. We will be appointing a new board member. We can't do it before 10 days after his resignation, but we have to do it within 30 days. So we will be doing that at a future special meeting, which we'll probably set a date for at the end of this meeting. I'd like to acknowledge the people present in the room and ask if you haven't signed up, there should be a pad over there, which I'm not looking. Yep. If you just sign in as being present, that would be great. All right, going into communications 2.1, we have a letter from Dr. William Barnett dated July 18th, 2018. I'd like to extend an invitation to the community members who are in the audience who might want to address the board. All right, Eli.
Did you hang out in Brooklyn this summer? Is that the whole thing with the beard?
Yes, actually Brooklyn came to me. Thank you, Madam President. I'm Eli Hurwitz. I represent the Yellow Springs Education Association. And as it's the August board meeting, it is a month of Sundays, getting ready for Monday. I've been in the schools on and off all summer long, and there have regularly been teachers here getting ready for a really exciting year. Last year, Mario put together with Donna First a committee of teachers to work towards increasing the cultural competency of our staff in our district. And I'm really excited that over the summer, YSCA worked with OEA to bring a training on August 21st for all of our teachers. And now all our paraprofessionals and bus drivers and secretaries are also invited to it as well. And it has the potential to be the kind of training that really helps people see who they are. And I think that's a wonderful thing in our environment today to really be able to improve the cultural competency of all the members of our district, all the teachers in our district, all of the staff in our district. In the process of it, I want to recognize Jamie Adolph for being able to go and become an actual trainer in this process. So he went to OEA and did a 3-day training to train the trainer, training in teaching cultural competency. And as the leader of our high school's United Student Society, I think it'll serve him really well, both with the students and with the staff at the high school. We've got a lot of wonderful teachers getting ready to do a lot of wonderful things. It's going to be a wonderful school year. And yeah, thanks for letting me speak.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr.
All
Beard,
right.
you have anything to say?
That was my beard speaking. I'll have my speech towards the end.
All right. Anybody else want to address the board? Okay, moving into schools in action. I'd like to introduce new staff.
Yeah, so we're excited about, and I'll let Matt add anything that he wants at the end here, but Joe Carr, who's, we're really excited about working with us. Foundations at the elementary school class at elementary school this year, and Joe, if you don't know him, is a Yellow Springs grad, right?
I am, yes.
And a returned to Yellow Springs with his family about a year ago,
Yeah, a year and a half.
year and a half ago. And he's married to Andrea Carr, so you may know her as well. And
She's an alum as well.
she's what?
She's an alum as well.
She's an alum as well. And they have 3 kids.
3, yeah.
3 kids.
All
And
3 will be at Mills Lawn this year.
yeah, so it's really cool. So he's who we are recommending for the position. And normally, Joe, at this time I say, if you have anything you'd like to say to address the board, but you already started speaking, so I think you're pretty comfortable.
Well,
You want to come up to the mic and say anything?
Well, I don't know if you need the mic.
Yeah.
I just wanted to thank you.
What do you do for the people watching at home?
For the outside world, yes.
No, I didn't prepare any remarks or anything. I just wanted to thank you guys for the opportunity. And I'm going to do my best to make everyone really happy that you guys let me into the schools. I think it's going to be great for everybody. I'm excited.
Joe's a teacher, so he came recently from Dayton, is that right? And then
I was a Dayton Public School teacher for 8 years.
8 years, okay.
As
The
an
whole time,
intervention
okay.
specialist. Yeah, and I was a stay-at-home dad essentially for the last 6. So this is my first foray back into education. I'm really excited. So.
Matt, you want to add anything? Or?
I'm super excited. Joe and I had a meeting earlier today, and we were talking about all the possibilities, especially I think we're both really interested in the outdoor education idea and really enhancing the space that we have out there. So we talked about some pretty cool ideas today, and Joe was in over the summer planting and getting some garden plots ready so that when the kids come back they can explore and see what a harvest might look like, and he's going to do a great job. And he actually, we already knew each other because he's a regular volunteer and a super great advocate for our schools and his kids and all the kids. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, no, thanks again, guys. I appreciate it.
Great, welcome.
Have
Good
you
to
back.
meet you.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to retirement plaque.
Yeah,
Woo!
all right. Susan,
Mario.
let's do this.
What more can you say?
Let's do this again.
Says it all.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so for a very long time now, I'm not going to say how many years, Susan has been part of getting these plaques for other staff members. And she has one now that's all hers. And so it's pretty exciting. And I don't know. So I was going to write some things down, but I'm just going to talk from the heart because oftentimes I do better that way. At least that's what Don told me earlier. So I just wanted to say I've been working with Susan as superintendent now for, 7 years. 8 years. 8 full years.
It only seems like 12.
Yeah.
See, that's where my math is messed up. Okay.
I'm gonna do your math.
Okay. I'll have to keep calculating this a little bit later, but anyway.
You're writing something down, apparently.
Yeah, I should have written something down. So anyway,
No, the hard part will be good, gets that.
if she says it, she's right. So that's one thing I've learned in 8 years with Susan. And so, she's worked, so she worked 8 years with me. How many years with Tony total?
2 as his assistant, but 10, his full 10 years here.
So 2 as his assistant.
So yes, you have the longevity.
And I have the longevity, so I've spent the most time with Susan, at least in this position anyway. Dan McCauley, I think, was your principal for a while too, wasn't he?
Yeah, but that was only 5 years.
Yeah, so I
So
take
you got
the
it.
cake.
You got it.
But anyway, let's get to the point here. So
It
we.
isn't all about you, right?
It is. That's right, it isn't all about me, yeah. Yes, you and Alice tell me that all the time. Hear from my wife all the time. So anyway, not that time, I have some things to say. So I just wanted to say that we all love Susan very deeply, and she is already missed, and she's going to continue to be missed. And probably Susan's greatest achievement, I think, is just her ability. So for those of you who don't know, Susan has run the district for 12 years and 13 maybe, is that right? She's been in charge for a very long time, and behind the scenes making things happen, and really the go-to for our principals, for a lot of our teachers, certainly for me. Our board members all converse with her on a regular basis as well, and so she's kind of the unsung hero, really behind the scenes, that did so much for our schools. Her kids went to school here and graduated from here. She started as an aide, is that right? And then eventually did some secretarial work, and kind of moved up the ranks, if you will, to become the executive assistant of the superintendent's office. And so every step of the way, she was loved and cared deeply for, and did amazing work. And so we're going to miss her, but I'm excited. I was more emotional at her retirement party, but I'm not as emotional because I know she's coming back. And so we are tonight. We're hoping to approve her for 2 new positions that I think will still keep her around and involved. But one of the greatest things I want to say too is that she's passed on a lot of knowledge to Stephanie in the short time period they worked together. But it turns out it's a year-long process to learn the job, and so she needs to be able to do more of that. But she is. Stephanie's doing great, and Susan was integral to that process of hiring somebody. And what we've learned about Stephanie is she's like the closest thing to Susan we can find. So that's a really, really great thing. I love Susan, and thank you for everything you've done to help me and speaking truth to me when I needed to hear it always. And those behind closed door conversations.
Yeah.
Um,
Good for both of us.
Yeah. So here's your plaque. Let me read it. So, retirement award presented to Susan Griffith. With this award, we wish to extend to you an appreciation for 28 years of dedicated service, 1990 to 2018, administrative assistant to 3 superintendents, 4 building principals, a classroom aide to the students and the district, and MJS coordinator.
Oh, that.
Is that right?
Is there a typo on the block?
EMIS. That is EMIS. I guess I didn't. The E looks like it's separate, doesn't
That's
it?
a fancy eye, though.
Yeah, it says EMIS. District EMIS coordinator. We didn't rehearse this. In case you can't tell. Of Yellow Springs Executive Village School District. On behalf of the students and staff of the community, we extend you our sincerest gratitude. Yellow Springs Board of Education, June 2018.
It was supposed to be in June. It would have been better if it was in June. I think it would be less emotional. After hearing you and the school year starting and what you're talking about, it's like, whew, it's going to be a tough one in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
But Archie came early, so I couldn't be here in June. I think you all know, see, I'm more emotional here than I was at my party. I think you all know how much I love this district, first of all, and how much I love working with all of you here. Everyone that's not here that has left over the years, and just the staff. I mean, the reason we're great is because of everyone that's here. Working with Mario has been extremely fun, interesting, progressive. You never knew quite what might be next. And sometimes you have to slow him down. But it's been a great 8 years with Mario. I am just so blessed to have worked with Tony and Mario. I couldn't work for better people and with better people. It has been just a blessing to be in this district. And I remember walking into Mills Lawn going, man, I'm so lucky that I love what I do. And that never changed. So I'm not going to go any further. Thank you all. I'm going to be out of town the week the school starts on purpose because I'm going to miss it a lot. But you are in good hands because Stephanie is dynamic, and we're going to help her be dynamic. And then she's going to be the go-to person, or she is the go-to person. That position is the go-to position, and she's doing a great job, and she loves the district too. So, and it was, you could tell that when we hired her. So, thank you all, and thank you for the kind words. And for it's been a great run. What a great 28 years. I couldn't be more blessed. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, congratulations.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I thought, I'm about 6 weeks into it now, and I thought, okay, I'm starting to figure this out. And now it's like hearing you talk, And it's like, oh man, you know, what had this figured
Well,
out.
we did have a vigorous board debate. We even called the attorney about what would happen if we hadn't accepted the letter of resignation. Could we in fact force you to stay on?
Yeah, there
Turns
might have
out
been
we
some
can't.
attorneys involved, right? No, I thank you. It's hard for me to imagine not coming to the board office every morning when school starts and just, well, being there. It's been a little bit of a challenge, but we've been really busy with lots of kids, grandkids, and we have projects planned, so it'll be
Great.
fine. And coming back part-time certainly helps, and I'll enjoy it a lot. So thank you.
Yes.
I'm not going to stay.
Okay.
It's all downhill from here.
Get some rest.
Thank you.
You don't want to see yourself reemployed?
No.
You do know you're on the agenda,
I
right?
know. I've already read it. I've already been, yeah.
See you, Joe.
Thank you.
Uh,
Bye, thank you.
Bye, Joe.
Bye guys, thank you.
Hi, Joe. So the next item on the agenda is really just for Donna to give you a brief update. And so I just want to, before she speaks, I just want to clarify a couple of things. So it's pretty important that she doesn't go into too much detail. So she's not going to go into a lot of detail intentionally.
You want to talk about what this is in reference to?
This is the the emergency management plan, and an update of that and where we are. And so she'll give you a very sort of generic overview that I think is suitable for the public. But a lot of things need to be kept private intentionally for the safety of kids.
I was mostly just going to show you how this has changed. I know you never really had a visual from when you had put together. It used to be that there was one safety plan for the whole district, which worked here just fine. These are a smaller district. And then because rules had changed a couple years back, we were forced to split that into one for each building and then an overall for the district. So I just made a copy of this for you so you can see what we have to turn into the state, or what tracks this for us. And that's something I would go into, or the principals would go into. And if you look at the first page, it just shows all, both buildings, then overall district on the bottom page. And it just says the management plan is compliant, that we certify it every year, because now we have to do that every year, even though before you just had to check in and do an overall every 3 years. We have to recertify it every year, and then you're supposed to have a bigger review every 3 years still. And so ours, I actually thought was last year. That would have been 3 years from the big review, and actually OD told us that too, but that's not true, it's this year. So it did start over when we had to make the new plan. So it'll be this year. And then you'll see on here, there's a place where we put in emergency management tests. Tests we're required to do, practicing in different ways in the buildings, and then the drills and whatnot. And then this gap analysis tool, the GAT, that's the second to last column there. That is how they kind of grade each of the plans, and we get a report on that. And so you can kind of see, if you were to click on that on the back page, it shows that we're compliant on that. And you can click on it and you could actually get the report. I don't have our reports for you, but you can take a look at this if you're interested. And I know, Aida, you might be interested, because this is, I think it's like 18 pages or so of what's required to be in those safety plans, those 3 that we have to make, just if you wanted to page through and get an idea. But that would be, if you clicked on that compliance where it says our compliance, we would get a report that looks like this with our information. And all of ours have green checks on them, so we're compliant. So I wanted to just kind of show you how that worked, and explain. And the one thing they did was, from the first time we did it this way, they made a new template last year. And the nice thing is the new template is a little bit more user-friendly. And of course, using a template ensures that all the things on those 18 pages are in there. And so we have it's actually laid out a little bit better, so the formatting looks better than originally. Originally, it looked just like solid sheets of typed paper. And now it's formatted a little better, and we have a little more ability to change that so it's easier to read. And then the first part of it is pretty standard across the district, and And then there's a second part that's more building specific or overall specific. And then there's the different sections for fire, tornado, bomb threat, all those things which are required to be in there. And that's kind of the general layout.
So this system kind of replaces just sending them the notebook?
Mhm.
That seems,
So we have,
Yeah.
we have 3 different binders right now, an overall district that kind of combines what's for the building, yeah. And this is all we send an electronic copy of that with floor plans and an overview of each building, a site overview like Google, if you've ever Google Maps, like a picture like that, and then a detailed floor map along with what's in each binder. Those get electronically uploaded and that's how we're compliant. And that's what they grade in order to do that evaluation. And then we ourselves have to do the testing and document that at this site as well. We give that, all 3 binders go to the Sheriff's Office for Greene County and the Police and Fire Department here in Yellow Springs. And then of course at each buildings, and we have a copy at the office, and it has to be documented where those things are kept as well as electronically so people can find them if needed. So they're in electronic format and paper format, and that's documenting where they're at. Should someone, say for some reason, someone knowledgeable like the principal isn't in the building and something happens and someone needs to find it, they can find it electronically or in the building or over at the board office. So those things are all noted.
So we develop the plan and then we send it to them so that they approve? Is that how I'm just making sure?
It is, actually, I wrote it down because I never remember this. It is the Ohio Department of Education, Department of Homeland Security, Administration Center for P20 Safety and Security. And we have a representative who used to be a girl named Kim Nagel, but now we have a new person named Jason Bowman. And they are the ones that kind of guide us on any of the changes. There's meetings for Greene County quarterly that I go to, and they are also involved in doing that gap analysis to evaluate that we have everything required.
Okay.
And all of that is kind of at Ohio, but it came out of requirements that came down from federal. And so that's why we have to do it this way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
That's okay.
So what's your sense of how the committee's going to operate at this point? You know, or is that sort of evolved?
I think it made it a little more difficult because you used to be able to come together as a district and talk about it and then put it together in one binder. And having, the principals are supposed to turn it in, update it, recertify it every year with whatever information has changed, whether it be a contact list that's at the beginning or whether some information has changed that's building specific. And then I would take that and integrate it into the overall district one or the one for that building, which is the board office. So that makes planning for 3 things instead of planning for 1. And that's, I think, what I think we're going to struggle with most. I was thinking about that as I was driving here today, and I figure I'm going to have to sit down with these 2 and figure out how we want to do this so that it doesn't get too hard to update a longer binder of information. Because each binder is roughly like, I'd say 79 pages. But some of that is tables and whatnot of information. Like listed in there is where an alternate water supply would be, where an alternate food supply, where we would go if a building was destroyed, like in a tornado or something like that. Where would we? So a lot of them are tables of kind of go-to information.
So is there still going to be, I'm the board rep, which is why, so is there still going to be some sort of committee besides the
We need
building
to. We can't organize it the way it
It used
was
to,
when
yeah,
it was
yeah.
first put together. And I think that's what I think we need to talk about, how we could best do that instead of doing 3 times the work separately, do it together in some organized way. Because there are still some components that I think being a smaller district, we don't really operate in a bigger district, you might have a couple buildings operate totally different from the districts, from the buildings, that are further away, but that doesn't happen here because they're so close.
Okay, so I'll just wait.
I think we should probably start that earlier, like September, so that it could be talked about after the drills. The drills run on a different calendar than this. This gets turned in every July, but the drills have to be turned in on a January to December calendar. So it just seems like it would make sense to talk about it after each of those and do whatever updates at that time, so that you don't have to wait till the end of the year and update everything, all at once in one discussion.
Okay,
All right?
we'll find our way through this, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Do you need these back?
No.
No,
You
okay.
can keep those.
Did you want to keep yours? No. Thank you. Okay, well, thank you. It's good to finally get a sense of.
Right.
I gotta think this over a little bit more.
Yeah, you and I may have to look at that closer.
Yeah. All right, moving on to the treasurer's report.
Okay, the month of July is starting out the fiscal year, so there's not really a whole lot to report on for July. You can keep that up there, but there's not a whole lot I have in my monthly report. We received an unexpected rebate from workers' comp. It was $11,386, and that's a rebate for some year, I don't even know which year, because we used to pay our workers' comp ahead of time, and it was an estimate, and then we would have a true up, and we'd have to pay the difference if there was, or we get a refund back if we paid too much. But now we pay, basically, or we used to pay it after the fact, I should say. We paid like 2018, we would pay in May of 2019. But now we're paying proactively, so we have to pay ahead of time, and then we have a true up, and either a true up, we get credit, or some sort of bill. So this, we did not get any information with it. It just was a check that said this is a rebate for them recalculating what they basically over deposited, which I guess is nice, they don't bank it, but they did distribute it back to the school district. So $11,386. That is about 2/3 of what we pay. Our premium is usually somewhere around $18,000, so that was a huge refund. It's almost a whole year. But that'll be in my fiscal year report. You can see how much we paid in workers' comp. We did get another rather large income tax collection. It was up 9.72 from what we received last July. This is the one where most of the money that comes in July are from people who filed their taxes, right before the April deadline, because it's April, May, and June's collections. So it's a lot of people that, it's always higher because people that have to pay usually wait until the very end to have to make those payments. So it's just still one of those things where income tax seems to be doing better than what I had projected, so we'll just see how it does this fiscal year. I didn't really have anything else to report on for the month of July. Our 3.2 is property and liability insurance, and we deal with Matt Bennett out of Xenia, and he is a resident here, right?
He's not a resident.
He's not a resident. Well, I think he wants to get into this school district. He said that before, but he usually does a very good job for us, and we just had a modest increase, which has been kind of typical for insurances anyway, because of all, I say it every year, but it's really mostly because of the natural disasters and all of the insurance money that flows into them. It ends up being spread all over everybody else. So it didn't go up that much. And then we did receive our new bus last week. So we have a brand new bus, and we did trade one in and received, I think, $1,200 for that. So we turned that in, and so when we,
$1,100
For a bus, yeah.
Couldn't you scrap it for more than that?
well, this bus has been worked on a lot. It It has good guts. It just was rusting out in the bottom. It was
Okay.
about to fall out of the bus, which is funny because, well, the Greenan is our mechanic who works on our buses, and he might actually want to buy it from the vendor we got the bus from, because he knows it's got good stuff inside.
Yeah,
So
right.
he wants to buy it and just wants to use it for whatever's on the inside. So I thought, well, that's kind of cool. But yeah, the bus costs a little under $90,000. I think it's
Yeah,
$80-some thousand for a new bus.
Right.
people will drive it for a long time.
Yeah, no,
so,
I know.
until it rushed out or
Hurts.
whatever happens. So this insurance premium does include the new bus in and the old bus out. So we got a re-quoted for that, which that's why it just ended up coming in after the agenda was done. So if anybody has any questions, I'd like to move into going over the fiscal year report, which I printed it because I wasn't sure I was gonna have time to get it up on the site, so I'll just give you a paper copy since I know Steve wants to take it home and look it over and over again.
Both of them, you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I only want one Steve to look at it, and everybody guess which one. Okay, so this is just a recap of what has happened in this past fiscal year. I said that I didn't want to do that in July because we had so little attendance in July, and Mario wasn't here, and I really wanted Steve to see, you know, a little more of the inner workings of the school district. So to go through, page 1 is just our revenues for 2017-18 for real estate and public utility taxes. That's about almost 46% of our entire revenue collections. And then our income tax is about 17%. The other big ones we have are our open enrollment, our state foundation is about 14%, and these are the dollar amounts. So last year for the general fund, we collected $9.4 million. And that was, I'll report on it at the very end. I'll show you how that compared to where it was in the 5-year forecast, because that ended up being more than what I thought we were going to receive, which is always good news. So that's how our revenue broke out for last year. And then
Interesting to point out, you know what's fascinating to me is that open enrollment's 11.44% and state foundation dollars, state funding essentially, there is almost as much.
Right.
It's just a little bit more.
Well, you're not adding in all the casino revenues.
Oh, yeah, great.
Can't forget our $30,000 of casino revenue. Might round that up to 14.7. So, and we do have a very, I mean, if you add up the 45.49 and the 17.31, don't ask me to do math in my head, but that's going to be, you know, somewhere in the nature of 53 or 63. Sorry, my mind was actually thinking, my mouth didn't say it. So yeah, that's 14.44% state foundation, of which that state foundation is up $300,000 from what it was 8 years ago. But it's just, it's still, they're both kind of growing at the same time, so we're not in essence getting any more state foundation when you compare it to what percentage it is of our whole revenue stream. And that's because of us putting out a new money levy. It's because we've had growth in income tax, and so it's still not a large percentage of our revenue budget. Okay, so the next page is our general fund, and this is the one that is detailed by expenditure category. I would say this is the one I get the most questions about, but I'm going to show you expenditures in 2 different ways. This is by 5-year forecast, which is your salaries and wages, your benefits, your purchase services, your supplies, and then I'm going to show you it by category of where we spend that money within the district. So we had $5.243 million in salaries and wages. Those are broken out by what we have for certified and for classified employees. We don't have a whole lot of overtime or extra time, and then we didn't have a lot of severance pays last year either, and then of course the board member pay. The fringe benefits are our STRS and STRS retirement plans, our tuition reimbursement, we have a personal leave incentive that we negotiated in this past contract. We've got our insurances, our insurances went up. I think last year was our 10% increase, and then this year, or maybe it was, I think it was 10% 2 years ago, then 7%, and then this coming year, it's going to go up by 5%. So we've had some pretty sizable increases in our medical insurance these past few years, which is unfortunate, but that's just where we're at right now. And that's within our group rating. Only every so many years do they really look at our usage and give us an increase based on our particular usage. They put it all in the pool and try to give everybody the most appropriate increases as possible. So We had increases in all of our insurances that are coming up, unfortunately, in October 2018, so we'll communicate that with the staff probably on opening day. Our Medicare, and then our workers' comp, last year we paid $18,859, so when we got $11,000 rebate, that was, almost 2 years back. And then we have usually very little unemployment compensation. Our purchase services, this is the one that contains so many different types of costs. Some of the professional contracted services are just things, they're little things out of the, oh, there's my key. Hi, come on in.
Hello, everybody. Y'all take care.
All right, thank you very much.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, thank you.
So our professional contracted services are just some little things here and there within the buildings and other areas. Our professional and legal fees are mostly what we are paying out to our attorneys, and unfortunately in the spring, this just skyrocketed. I was yelling to Mario because I take last year's spreadsheet and then I update the figures. And last year it was $30-some thousand, and we're back up at 90 again. But it wasn't a negotiations year or anything, so that has just been a lot of what has been going on in the district. A lot of these public records requests, which I've reported on that, and I've been very, very transparent about that because it costs a lot of money to give free public records requests. So that was way over budget. We have fees to pay Rebecca. They will only increase their fees if absolutely necessary. Rebecca Tech Coordinator Services, that's a new line item I put in here because we are now contracting out our technology coordinator services. So that number will be a lot larger next year. It will be the full cost of 1 year's salary. That was just having our new coordinator overlap with Jacob for some training towards the end of the year. So that's what we get paid this year so far. We've got meetings and mileage is all for professional development within the district. We've got our utilities, and then our property insurance, we're leasing our copiers, postage, advertising. I tried to break out our communications because it's been growing. We're getting into some different things with our communications. So we've had, this is basically what we've spent on the communications that we contract out with the Clark County ESC for the person who's supposed to help work on our website and work on our public relations and things like that. We also have to pay for website. We had an overlap in that this year as well because we used one service provider starting July 1 of last year, and then we had to pay another amount to our new service provider, and I had to pay that before the end of the fiscal year. So we had basically 2 payments this year. For that, we are still using the one-call system to do those automated phone calls. We had a newsletter this year, so that was the printing of the newsletter. And then our cafeteria software services. These are smaller dollar amounts, but I just didn't feel right just putting them in communications because that's not really necessarily what they are, but those are what the costs are for those. And then pretty much the rest of what is down here is what we pay for some of our students that attend other districts or go to a special program at another school district, what we pay the Educational Service Center, our preschool program. Our open enrollment was way down this year. We spent, I think it was maybe $40,000 or $50,000 last year, and this year was $19,172, and I really noticed that as I was doing those postings throughout the year.
These are
That's the open enrollment out of our
Yeah.
students attending somewhere else, so they're taking that money from us. So that is the equivalent of maybe not even like 3 to 4 students. And then our college credit plus is where it used to be the post-secondary education. Our high school kids are taking those college credit classes, so that was $39,000. And then our community and STEM schools, and that's one of those that has not been increasing. That's one that stayed steady or decreasing. So those are purchase services. Our supplies and materials are not quite as detailed as that. Just the way we break them out, we'll break them out into instructional supplies that are used with students, our software, and any type of electronic text that we've been using. Textbooks, the 552 may be like replacement textbooks for some of the ones that we're still using actual books for. We've got Eline's library, there's some of the expenses that were made out of the library, the books and periodicals. And then office supplies are anything that that all of the offices in the district have purchased. Any supplies that were used for the vehicles and buses, our fuel, our tires, and then a lot of the custodial maintenance is really just a lot of the basic things, toilet paper and, other custodial maintenance, cleaning products and things like that. So that's what that is. And then our capital outlay, we have dedicated the general fund to be supportive of supplying the technology that we are doing for the students now instead of doing that through permanent improvement fund. So we have given those special line item codes where it says Mills Lawn Tech Equipment. But that is not just for one-to-one computing for the students. It's the projectors. It's anything else that's technology related that would be used in the classroom. We also have we have to break out special education equipment and that's because we have to spend a certain amount of money in the special education area every year. So I always make sure that we are breaking that out and appropriately costing that. There's non-instructional technology, which would basically be the laptops and computers for some of the supervisors and secretaries and things like that. And then like capital outlay for district custodial maintenance are things that we're purchasing. We're getting ready to purchase a floor buffer that's like $4,000 some. If it's a large dollar amount, I asked Mario if we can take it out of the permanent improvement fund instead of taking it out of the general fund. These are probably just basic needs here and there. I think maybe we bought a snow blower and something else last year. Our House Bill 264 is done being paid in 2020. So that is some of the remaining payments on that. Our other objects are our organizational dues and fees, and that would be just for like our Ohio school boards, things that Mario and I and some of the principals belong to, and some of the teachers. A state audit, that will be probably between $25,000 and $30,000 this coming year because we are on an every other year cycle. We'll be audited for 2 years this year, so that is really low. That was just to convert our cash basis books into accrual basis books because we have to do that every year. County auditor treasurer fees, this is the money we pay to have our tax collection. So on that $4.5 million that we collected in taxes, this is the fees that we have for that. And then we pay some money to ESC and to do our banking and our liability insurance. I already reported in June and July what I had to advance and transfer to the lunchroom and to athletics and some of the other miscellaneous funds, and the refund of prior year receipt is kind of a unique situation. We had money that we had gotten for the Deeper Learning Training Center, and it ended up crossing fiscal years, so I had to refund it out of the general fund to put it into the Deeper Learning Training Center fund. It's just kind of the proper way to account for that, so it just kind of looks weird on the book. So total general fund costs were $8.8 million for the year. And then how that is broken out is your 59.5% for salaries and wages. That's that graph down there, and then 22.6% in fringe benefits. So that puts us, about 72%, 73% for fringes and salaries as a total of expenditures. But remember when I'm talking about how much it should be of your budgets, of your revenue. But since our revenue is higher than our expenditures, it's going to be a lower number anyway, so.
It's 82% actually.
My mind is thinking, and my mouth is just not saying I'm tired.
I'm sorry, because this is fantastic, and I hate to interrupt you, but so yeah, it's about 82% is essentially personnel costs. And is that commensurate with the figure at other districts? Is that normal, or are we at the high end, at the low end? Do you have any sense of that?
From other districts, no.
You don't know?
No.
Yeah, okay. I'm just kind of curious.
All treasurers are budget kind of the same. We want it to be in that range.
Yeah, I just.
But like when you're on the board at the Career Center, and theirs would be very different and a lot lower because they spend so much more capital outlay and supplies for their
exactly
for their
it's
classes. So,
yeah.
but that's one that you definitely wouldn't compare to. But it as a percentage of expenditures for us and smaller school district, ours is going to be higher because we have a hard time employing part-time people when you we try to, but sometimes that's hard to do, and it just becomes less cost effective. And so, I mean, it would be, if we were going to compare, we'd want it to be apples to apples, like you said, so a district of similar size. And there is reports that are on ODE that,
Yeah, this is the second officer who's.
We got burglar alarm and a fire alarm going off here, so we got fire department here. So I'm not sure why, but we're able to check real quick.
That's very
I'll let you
exciting.
guys in the front door.
Thank you.
Make sure you get that on camera. That is the most exciting thing that's ever happened in one of our meetings.
But is it more like we have a benchmark that we try for versus comparing to other districts?
Well,
Or,
it's whatever benchmark we may set for ourselves. When you start getting into that 85% range, you
then
really
that's
need to
when
kind of look
you
at,
worry.
but it's not of the total expenditures, it's of your revenue. So our revenues, that percentage is gonna be smaller. Okay, so moving on.
play so cool.
I know, maybe there's something wrong. That would be my luck.
The door's over there.
A motion to adjourn.
Okay, so detail by expenditure area is taking those same way that the 5-year forecast is laid out, but breaking it out by what we're spending in the regular instruction area, the special instruction area. We do get funding from the federal government for Title I and Title IV-A. Our Title I is an unfortunate $87,000, which is just enough to cover the Title I coordinator now. And then our Title IV-A is new funding that we've been using for similar Title I services. And then our Title VI-B special education funding, we fund 1 teacher, and we fund some excess costs that we pay to ESCs for psych and speech. Okay, and then other instruction are things that just fall under different areas. And if it's kind of vague, I put it down at the bottom. It's for tutoring, tuition, open enrollment, community schools, College Credit Plus, support services pupils. That is employees who are pretty much working directly with our students but are not necessarily instructors. Guidance nurse, psych, speech, OTPT. We have support services for staff. Those are also, I listed those out there too for tuition reimbursement, professional development, tech and library. I grouped the board, administration, and fiscal together. And this is the cost of all of those put together. And then we have custodial maintenance cost, our transportation cost. The support services central is primarily the EMIS, Educational Management Information Systems, that Susan did and retired from, that Stephanie now does, and then our development office, so that's what we spent in that area. And then we have our academic and athletic supplementals. The cost for those for this past year was $230,000, and that is not just for coaches, that is also for all of our academic supplementals as well. We have our building improvements. This $18,820 was mostly, I believe, what we had paid for Richley to come and do all of the community engagement services that we did, and we have not done any renewal contract, and we paid it in full by the end of the year. So that part is done because that was phase 1, so that was the total for that. And then our House Bill 264, and then the advances and transfers. So it's the same 8.8 million, looked at it in a different way.
and House Bill 264, you said goes away
2020,
soon-ish,
March 2021, we make our last payment.
Okay.
So that is a graph broken out by area for the district.
Can I interrupt about that house? 264. Is there any advantage to paying that down faster? If we had a magical check show up in the mailbox like you had today,
I don't think so, because they were set payments, the interest rate does not vary
and
at all.
the interest rate is
I don't know, because it's on a
reasonable?
sliding,
Okay.
yeah, I don't remember what it was I don't remember what it is off the
Okay.
top of my
I just-
head, but
just
the
curious.
payments are set. I mean, they were, like, our bond interest can vary,
Mhm.
but the House Bill 264 was set,
Okay.
so. Okay, so the very last page is just briefly, I just wanted to go over, this is comparing our, do I have another page on there?
Yeah.
Yes, you
Okay.
have more.
You want this one? Okay.
And so this is just comparing, I do this every year, it's my check and balance to you, to show you, what I projected back in October and then where we are now. So the middle column that says initial forecast is what I had projected in October, and then our 2017-18 is actually where we actually ended up, and you can see the huge variance in revenues. Most of them were to the good, but when I do the October projection, I don't know what our open enrollment numbers are. So I put 1.2 million, we got 1.082 million because our open enrollment numbers went down. So we did, thankfully, we've got these other payments that have come in higher than expected to cover that deficit. I've already explained, with the real estate taxes and the income tax coming in over budget, our investment income with all the CDs that I've been doing has been earning a lot more money, with the interest rate earning a lot more money, so I'm going to continue to work on that and keep trying to earn more money. I've talked to US Bank about doing a better rate with them, and then I'm going to continue to put money over to Fifth Third because they've got the best rate right now, and then I'll continue to get our CDs. The other local, we did receive 2 payments of the billing that I do for the higher cost of special education students, that we get that money that helps reimburse some of those costs. We received 2 payments for that, one last July, and then this fiscal year's I got before June, so there's 2. That won't be that high next year. And then our expenses were really pretty much on budget. So everything, I don't have a lot to report there. They're within 0.57 of original budget, so I'm very happy with a budget that looks like that. When you get one when you want your revenues to be higher and you want your expenditures to be lower. So in the end, we came out $369,000 higher than what I thought we would. So I will roll that into the October forecast when I do that and work from there. So that is the fiscal year in a nutshell. And I wanted to, because it's a little too aggressive to start talking about, because I reported a little bit on the athletic fund. But I said I really want to talk about it when Mario's here, but I think that we'll just do that some other time. Maybe we can have Nate come and talk about it too. And then our lunchroom, we took a pretty big loss this year, and they have, Sodexo has contracted out to do a study on why we had this loss and what might have caused that. And what basically happened is that they've had modest increases in their cost, but we just didn't have revenue this year. So we'll just figure that how that is going to work out. Donna and I really kind of gave them a hard time when we were doing our new 5-year contract to say that we'd like to have a lot more communication this year. So I think if we can do that, then hopefully we'll have a better year this year.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank
Wow.
you, this is really terrific.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're moving into, unless anybody has anything else? No? 3.2, property and liability insurance. This is just our annual thing, right?
Yes.
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 Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All right, roll call.
Steve won.
Yes.
Steve.
Yes.
Aida.
Yes.
Sylvia.
Yes.
All right. Moving into the superintendent's report.
Okay, I'm gonna try to do something a little bit
Oh,
fancier here. Not really.
Are you going to wear lederhosen?
Yes, I have a picture of me in lederhosen.
That's what I want to see. That's what the people want to see.
Yeah, that's what people want to see. I'm sure they want to see that. I'm just going to show you a few pictures. I have several to share, but I'm just going to share a few. So I went to Germany and Czech Republic. I guess I'll start with this one. This is the one that I've showed a lot of people over time. And this is me. Wait, don't tell me. Did anybody guess where this is?
No.
You can't shoot me.
I've seen it.
Brandenburg Gate.
No.
Not the Brandenburg Gate?
No.
It's on your
In
handout.
Berlin?
It's telling you.
You can cheat.
This is Sanssouci in Potsdam, Germany, which is, of course, the capital of Brandenburg. And the state that surrounds the state of Berlin. And it's a real famous palace in Germany, and it was it Ludwig? Right, King Ludwig, I think. This was his place that he stayed at quite a bit, and so it's really effective. The architecture, the beauty of this place is amazing, and so it looks like that's really coming in.
How's it going, guys? Sorry to bother you again. I just wanted to give you guys, we're almost to the all clear point. The building checks out okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Sounds like we're on discussion.
Yeah, there's an issue with the alarms, as you guys obviously know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, so this is me and Sun Suzy, and so what I did was I got a scholarship to go to Germany from BASA, which is our superintendent organization, and they sent superintendents attended from, we had a group from New York and Ohio that went together on this trip to Germany, and we started in Munich, and really great trip. We went to the, all kinds of places there, went to Dachau, as we know, but I think they say Dachau is how it's really pronounced, I think, I believe, in German. They said try to do it right, but that's it. That was a really moving experience, going to a concentration camp, and just kind of, I have lots of pictures on that, but I'm not going to show any of those today. So that was a really great experience. But after that, we went to Nuremberg, spent some time there after Munich, and just for a day, we saw the medieval city, which is the inner city that's still intact, which is really powerful to see. And then we ended up in Berlin for 4 or 5 days and ended with the Student Leadership Conference. And so that was a really powerful experience. We had international students from all over the world who've come together in Berlin to essentially work on, use design thinking and PBL to create solutions to the problems with technology. And that's exactly what they were doing. And so it was kind of cool to experience that and see these kids work together. And then the speakers were amazing. Randy Zuckerberg was there, and I'm trying to think of the guy from Disney that was an incredible animator and just retired recently. He's going to help me with that maybe. Okay. But it was a really powerful experience. And so I want to just show you a couple pictures, and then I want to talk a little bit about some of the takeaways. So this, after the 10-day trip with BASA, I stayed in Europe, and my brother-in-law lives in Germany. My family joined me there at that point, and we went to Prague. And so this is on the river in Prague, and really beautiful. That's what you're looking at is the Charles Bridge, the famous Charles Bridge there in Prague. If you've never been to Prague, it's an amazing, beautiful city. This is another picture of that bridge from the river, and just a beautiful scene. We're actually on the river here in a paddle boat, my family and I. And it turns out you have to be really careful on paddle boats because these big tour boats, literally like Titanic size, go right through, and you can get caught, and they were honking at us, and it wasn't good. It was so scary. And so this is the castle in Prague, which is a beautiful castle as well. We kind of experienced that as well. This was really interesting. So I don't think this is what I think it is. But I have to tell you, I was on a sidewalk. So, well, this is a story with this. In Berlin, they have a lot of parks that are public parks, and they're really great public parks, right? And so they have these amazing public parks, and this was a particular park that's really famous and has a restaurant, in the middle of the park. Well, there's a sidewalk in front of this restaurant, and literally people walk on the sidewalk around. This was on the sidewalk, right next to the sidewalk. My brother-in-law pointed it out to me. I don't know if they have any more of a permissive culture around marijuana than we do. Somebody said it may not actually be marijuana, but I don't know.
Jack, do you have opinions about this?
I don't know. So I just thought it'd be interesting because it's just sort of an interesting cultural thing to sort of just see that growing in the middle of a garden. It was sort of odd for me. This is the last picture I want to show you of Berlin. This is a Berlin traffic jam. And if you've ever been to Berlin, especially, the bike culture there is insane. They are intense, and they will knock you over if you get in their lane. And so the way of traffic, like for us, pedestrians are number one. For Berlin, it's bikers all the way. pedestrians are like third on the list, I think, you know, because bikers, scooters, then pedestrians, and then vehicles, you know, in the end, you know. But the bikers are definitely there. So, but it was kind of interesting because this was like, I think in the afternoon, but I remember walking at 8 in the morning and literally there was 15 bikes on their way to work, kind of stacked in a line in a traffic jam at a light waiting to go in Berlin. So it was kind of fascinating to see some of that. This is another sort of thematic thing that I think we noticed about really many parts of Germany. Berlin in particular, there's graffiti everywhere in Berlin. I mean, it is everywhere. And it just was so much that it was really, I was trying to figure out why that was. Why is there graffiti everywhere? And just the nicest neighborhoods, the worst neighborhoods, it was just everywhere. It was pretty much equal wherever you were. And, you know, it felt like there might be a permissiveness around it, but when I talk to people about it, that's not necessarily it. But people are a little bit more accepting of it. And I wonder how much of that has to do with the wall and some of the things that are around that. I don't know, but it was really fascinating being in a really nice neighborhood, in a really nice building, and walking into the building having wall-to-wall graffiti everywhere. It's just, it's looked at different culturally there than I think it is in the United States. But graffiti was literally everywhere there. There's another picture I want to show you, but I don't know if it showed up or not. It didn't show up. Here it is. This is a picture that was on a wall in the Berlin Wall, so the East Wall Memorial, I think it is, or East Wall Gallery. And we took a lot of pictures of all the different wonderful, you know, sites and all the great, you know, murals that are up at the wall. And it was just a great opportunity for us to see some of that with my family and I. And then here, of course, after everybody left, this is my family at the Brandenburg Gate. And interesting, they had this set up behind us for soccer because they thought they were going to win the World Cup, and they ultimately did not. And it was really sad. And there's this whole amphitheater set up with thousands of seats for people to watch it live. You know, ultimately, it didn't happen for
They didn't get close.
the people of Germany. I guess the one thing that I took away from the whole trip that I think is really worth sharing, and I've shared it with a few board members and community members at this point, is the thing that really struck me. It wasn't about the differences in schools. I don't know that their schools are any different than ours in the United States, frankly. I also don't know that their best schools are any different than our best schools, you know, in the U.S. But what really struck me as interesting was just the language, you know, and how when you travel the world, around the world, it's everybody knows 2, 3, 4 languages, you know, and in the United States we know one, you know, and that's really on a good day. And that's really sad. And so one of the things that made me think about is we sort of want to be the district that gives our students an opportunity to be the global change leaders of the future. And if that's important, then I think we need to really think about if we're really affording kids the best opportunities to really do that. Because one of the things that I talked to my brother-in-law who lives in Berlin, and he said, you know, Mario, the thing is, he sort of struggled to get his business started there after having a very successful business in Cleveland because he didn't speak the language. And he said, you know, the thing is, even though everybody speaks English, if you don't speak German, it's really hard to connect from a business perspective, at least, with people. If it's a trust thing, or there's a lot of other factors that are involved there. But that's a big deal that he noticed when he came. And I think I noticed it as well. And the language issue. So we as Americans speak one language, and everybody is sort of happy to try to speak it with us and engage in it when we go there. But I think it puts us at a strategic disadvantage. People talking about being global. So one of the things I wanted to think about, and maybe this is something we think about for the next strategic plan, or when we talk about it more, I think, is really thinking about what kind of foreign language opportunities we offer our kids. And people in Europe are all getting foreign languages in elementary school, lower elementary school, and they're getting immersion experiences in elementary school. They're doing the same thing all the way through middle and high school. They're learning 2, 3 languages all the way through. Now, that can be done in a lot of different forms. It doesn't have to be hiring somebody. It could be lots of different opportunities and ways to do it. But it seems to me it struck me as important enough for us to really at least think about it and have a discussion about this as we go forward through our process. So that was my Germany trip. Hopefully nobody was too moved by the picture of that plant.
Well, I was thinking, it's probably the only school board meeting happening this month, which featured a photograph like that. Would be my guess. I'm sorry.
I wasn't promoting. I just was interested.
You are now. That's what the
Yeah.
headline's going to read. Before you move on to item number B,
Yes.
I just want to reiterate what you just said, which is, I think this would be a terrific thing for us to discuss, and maybe precisely in the context of a new strategic plan.
Yeah.
I think it's a really important observation. It's a tricky thing to deal with. I think this would be a really great topic for us to talk about.
Yeah, you've traveled a lot, so you've seen it yourself everywhere you go.
Sure. And how we would think about building that in, starting here in this building, right? I think that, I think it'd be great to do this. I won't say anything more about that, but I thank you for bringing it up, because I think it's really important.
Okay.
John Musker, sound familiar?
John Musker? Yeah.
That's the guy who retired from Disney after 40 years.
Oh. Maybe that's
Or
him.
Ron Clements.
No, those two guys.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you know. Yeah. We can keep going. We'll find another. Keep going with the names. We'll see what we can get. Okay. So so John talked about the new school bus. I wanted to tie it to the permanent improvement levy, because what our permanent improvement budget is under $150,000 a year, and basically you spend $90,000 on a bus, and that budget is very limited at that point and has an effect on our ability to do some of the permanent improvements we want to do in the district. And so we have a renewal levy on the ballot for November. It is not an increase. I think that's really important to share with the community. It's purely a renewal. We're not asking for any additional funds. At some point in the near future, the community is going to have to get a levy committee together to, probably in the near future, to try to promote this levy, or at least figure out a way to get information out there. We'll certainly do that as a district, get information out there for the community to be aware that this is coming in November, and to make sure they go out and vote on the initiative. So like, this is another 5-year renewal. And so we just want to encourage everybody to be aware that that's coming in November, and please get out and vote. And that renewal, I think, is going to be less than right around 1 mil. Is that right, Don?
Yes, right now.
1.1 or something like
It will be on the ballot for 1.2 mils, but that has been factored down to a little over 1 mil, and that doesn't show on the ballot language, but that is what is on the tax bills, because we have not replaced it at the 1.2. We've always continued to renew it, so it stays at the lower rate.
So the next thing is the structural engineers report, and I think we shared it with the board already. You'll have had a chance to see it, I think, that report. But essentially, we got the report from Sheldon Meyer, and they shared a number of different things that came out of the report. Number one, they felt like we really wanted them to look at the second and third floors of the high school, particularly the tower area, because we were concerned about there being some structural problems that could lead to an incident like what happened in Greenland schools at their high school, and so we were concerned about that happening in our schools. And so we went ahead and had Sheldon Meyer come out, and very reputable source, and we had a lot of community members we invited to be there, and they certainly did come out and were part of the walkthrough. We went through the whole inspection with Sheldon Meyer and those engineers. And then the report just came out a couple weeks ago, and we had a chance to look at it. And essentially, it confirms what we had heard from folks who were at that meeting, which is, number one, the problem in terms of the cracks that we're worried about separating the floor from the walls essentially is an issue of some brackets that needed to be screwed in or put in that are missing. And that if we can do that, which is not terribly expensive, that should be able to solve that problem permanently. It's really more of a cosmetic issue than it is a real danger to the schools. And so I think that's a really important point to hear. Great news for us, for sure. And so that's positive. when they looked at the rest of the building, they essentially saw similar things. The one area that they did comment on that they felt like we really need to consider potentially replacing is the shoebox or the trailers out there. They talked about some major condensation issues that are beneath the floor, which create problems with the air. I'm sure Jack's experienced it personally over there. And that's a problem that we need to be able to work through. And so the question is, how much is that going to cost to fix? We have to figure that out. And is it worth it to fix it versus really doing something different in that space? So that's the report. The next piece of that, which I think is an important point, and I think the board, we talked a lot about this for in a few meetings, but I want to make sure, and Aida and I just talked about it the other day, but I want to make sure that the whole board's in support of this before I go forward, but because I wasn't totally clear about it the last time we met. And it's probably my fault, but I want to make sure we're clear that we're okay to go ahead and pursue a second evaluation of the facilities, K-12, both buildings. And that would be something that we would fund as a district to pay for that. I thought the last time we talked that folks were okay with that or leaning more in that direction than they were before. But you can correct me if I'm wrong. If you feel like we need to talk more about it, that's fine as well. So
My recollection is that you had, in a preliminary way, priced out
Yep.
with 2 or 3?
I think
Two firms that are experienced in doing such work, and you were getting figures, not contractual figures, but sort of back of the envelope figures of $10,000 to $12,000.
right.
That's correct?
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit more than that, but I'll double check.
Okay.
So yeah.
So that would be what we would be spending of district money?
Yes.
Okay.
For what kind of more detail about each building?
So I'm not sure there's more detail. It just looks different. So I think the reports I had seen, one of the things that's really interesting about one of the companies I really looked into is that they produce a maintenance schedule, which is sort of an interesting idea to me, to sort of look at how much things would cost every year and the kinds of things you should be replacing in your school every year. They very much looked at systems the same way this other report did, but it's really truly a second opinion of a lot of the work that's been done from the OCC.
Right. It's right.
Mostly, I mean, except for that one piece.
So partly after talking with you, I was thinking we can do that second opinion anytime.
Yeah.
But I sort of feel like maybe we need to decide how we're going to proceed, and then we can get a sense from the rest of the board here tonight about where they are with that, but how we're going to proceed, and then when it makes more sense, if we decided to go for a second opinion, when to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I thought we already talked about how to proceed. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought we already had a pretty clear direction in terms of the kinds of things we need to do now going forward with facilities.
Actually, there's a plan in place.
Yeah, but the one thing that we were missing was whether we really wanted to do another facilities. That's the one thing I wasn't clear on. I was fairly clear on everything else we need to do going forward, but that was the one thing I needed to know. And I think...
The second opinion?
Yeah, because
Okay.
the point is, before we go into really engaging the community more on this, I think it's really important to have all the data in front of us and say, here's the data, here are the facts, as we've seen in several sources. Let's wrestle with this a little bit together and figure out what it means, and then go forward with some planning. If we go forward with planning without that data there, I think we'll still have community saying, you didn't get a second opinion, and we asked you to get a second opinion. And I think that won't help us as we move forward. So that's just...
Yeah, and I'm prepared to, yes, and I agree that we may have left this a little bit vague and ambiguous, end of the school year, and then July sort of lost. So this board member is confirming that going ahead and doing that is something I would support and do support. Though I would also, wonder again, how common is it for districts to be, in a sense, forced to? How many of the districts was engaged in this process have the OFCC's recommendation so publicly vilified? I think that's kind of curious. I'd be interested to know how many other districts are in a sense compelled to spend extra money doing this, but I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I would imagine not very many.
Not many, so I would be my guess.
Well, I guess I feel like we had a discussion about next steps, but I don't know that there's a plan.
Yeah,
So forgive me if
a hard
there's.
on paper plan. There is not a hard on, there is a plan. And there's
Yeah, I
four-
still
there's
felt like
4 or
there were
5
a lot of
steps.
ideas
Yeah.
and
Okay.
not,
So you need a little, you need, needs to look a little more solidified. I can put that together,
Yeah.
for sure.
But I also, I guess, so I agree. I think I could probably duplicate about 75% of what's in your head, but I do think having it on paper.
100%.
Yeah, exactly.
Make sure we're all on the same
On the
page.
actual page, the actual same page. But I also think that this question of hiring and paying for another facilities report can happen anyway.
Yeah.
Right,
That's
it
kinda what I
doesn't,
think,
it doesn't
yeah.
require you to write all this down. It's an independent variable.
Well, I think those are the first things we're talking about.
Yeah.
Potentially,
Yeah, yeah.
so. Steve, you have an opinion on
It's a second opinion, I just, yeah, it's sort of I guess really it's just the goal of, when they coming here to evaluate just what they believe you should do than what they believe is best for, I don't, like sometimes that's
Yeah.
where I think people worry, and so I feel like as long as it's like, look, we just need you to evaluate this,
Yeah.
and, but I feel like I've been hearing that be done a lot, so, I mean, will it be weighed against or with the OFCC's report? How, like, I'm just trying to figure out what the second opinion, if they are equally matched, would that still help people's concerns? Like, I wonder sometimes. I'm just trying to figure out where,
I think
because the
there's
cost of it,
Yeah.
the cost of it sounds like, well, so if it does end up being exactly the same,
Well,
wow, that would be.
yeah, I take your
But
point.
if people
Yeah.
were concerned that another one wasn't done, then, fine, but going over cost today, we're starting to see it all. It's kind of like, all right, if a second opinion's wanted,
12,000 here, 12,000 there, pretty soon.
yeah, I'm thinking like it's gonna be more cost to budget, I was just saying, I don't know.
Yeah.
right, but.
Plus, it's
I-
just, again, like, is it just like, you're talking about, just stick to the assessment of like the structure,
Systems.
the mechanisms of the systems in the building, it's also not even covering everything, but it would be like another eye to that.
Right.
For each building separately. I'm trying
Or at
to,
least that's, I'm just worried that they may have a similar, well, here's what we could build if you
Well, I
decide
think
to
this
go
is,
that route.
yeah, I mean, I think this
So
is,
as long as they stick to,
That's a good point, Steve. I don't think, the people I'm talking about are not construction companies. These are really, this is what they're.
so they're here to
That's-
analyze
That's it. They're not trying
buildings.
to make money anywhere else. That's not the goal. Yeah.
Gotcha.
That's super important if we don't, yeah.
But then,
I think that's what you're asking.
Yeah,
They're
right,
conflict
right,
of
that
interest
they're not
and
gonna
assess
come
it.
and immediately go, well, I built, that's.
It'll cost you $500 million.
Yeah, right,
The brand new
yeah,
school
you
district.
guys figure that part out, here's what we want to build.
Yeah.
And I feel like as long as they stick to the nuts and bolts of it, and then, second opinion, it'll either verify or to explain something else where to come to something even more chaotic, but it's the same building, so I doubt.
yeah, we're not gonna learn.
Conflicting.
Right.
Right, so it'll probably end up allowing us to specialize. Both reports said something needs to happen here. That's great, now we know we can focus on it.
and it won't be anything about the like educational space part of the
Right.
interest.
Hmm.
I mean, that's a question, I'm
Yeah,
assuming
that's a
that's
great
not what
question.
they do.
Not the people I've looked at so far,
You
but
mean
maybe we could
Like
incorporate that as part of
optimal
that thing. Yeah.
educational space
Right.
for
Yeah, right.
today,
Excellent point.
teaching children.
Well, so
Versus
the-
like you have this building, here's what's going on, here's how you can kind of keep it going. computers will we think maybe we couldn't, we don't see even go, just like basic, like that's what I'm asking, is it any of that stuff, or is it just the like what we were just talking about?
So I would like to suggest that this is a scope of work issue that we probably should not sort of group edit here, but I think you need to think about exactly what that scope of work is.
I just want to know what we're paying $12,000.
And I think it's more, actually.
Yeah, I thought it was
So I'd
closer
like
to 20.
So I'd like to add that, okay.
So I think I've got some good direction, so I'm gonna go get some more quotes and see if I can get something that particularly talks about, because that's really important, Sylvia. That's something that we're gonna need to have quantified and know what that looks like, and, yeah, how do we incorporate that into this too? That's a really smart point you're making. And then
Would you just reiterate what you were?
so I think what I heard Sylvia say was that,
There's just a lot happening.
no, that's a great point. What I
Yeah.
heard her say was that, getting just a pure facilities report that just looks at, okay, this is wrong with this part of the building, this is wrong with this part of the building, it's gonna cost this much to replace it, without addressing the educational needs our kids have to be effective in school as 21st century learners in 2018, then that falls short of the real need. It's not just about nuts and bolts, it's also about transforming education for our kids. And so those are factors that are really important too.
Especially if it's more like, did I just hear you say it's maybe more like $20,000, not
Thought so.
$12,000?
Yeah.
So that also makes me feel like I would like more for $20,000
Sure.
than just what I was thinking.
Okay,
Because
so
that's an important piece of it, but the other stuff's important too. And then now if we're fluctuating in the number of thousands of dollars, I want to be more clear about that before it's like, yeah, let's just go do that. I don't know.
Okay. So here's what I'll do. I'll get some very clear ideas, and I'll try to present maybe what I think are the two best options to the board and share it with you all.
Well,
The next few weeks at least, and then we can see what,
we are supposed to have a special meeting in the next probably 14 days, right? And so maybe,
I get something that.
exactly, maybe in time for that special meeting.
I don't think there's anything the board has to vote on. You may want to vote on it,
Mhm.
but you don't have to because the dollar amount is not.
Right.
That way. So,
Okay.
just FYI. Okay, sorry. So, Green County Career Center resolution discussion. Did you want to say something about it?
No.
Are you sure something will go back if you want?
No, I think.
No,
we're done with
I'm
that.
good, done with that one, yeah.
So, how do I introduce this discussion? So, I think, so the Career Center, let me pull this up here if I can. Our Career Center, our wonderful Career Center has, they're putting a levy on the ballot for November, I believe, right?
Yes.
It's going to be a 1.03 mil bond levy to essentially help expand the expansion of their programming. Specifically, it's the Take Flight Initiative project, and a big part of that Take Flight project is building a new facility and for students to learn and be educated in. Is that a fair statement, Steve? Is there anything you want to add, just as a?
So it's a solution to two issues. One is a building which was built in the late 1960s and which has come to the end of its useful life and has so many, as we do, has so many annual repair and other kinds of issues that the board was faced with do you keep throwing good money after bad because we're really at the end. Other issues related to the layout of the building, this board, maybe more so than our board, concerned about the layout of the building in terms of safety questions, because it's long corridors without a lot of visibility and access, and a number of board members and the superintendent feel that, especially in light of what's happened in Parkland and other places recently, that this has become a non-acceptable situation. So that's one piece of the problem. The other piece of the other thing that this tackles is to create a new program at the Career Center built around aviation, aeronautics, avionics, and other things related to the aerospace industry. There is no other program in the state and really no other program in the country that trains students in these fields. It also happens to be the case that the I-75 corridor between Dayton and Cincinnati is one of the 3 largest aerospace business manufacturing corridors in the country. So what we have been hearing for a number of years now from employers is that the really almost desperate lack of trained workers for their companies. And so this Take Flight initiative is a way of trying to address that industry in the region. So in addition to doing things that the Career Center has always done really well, like carpentry and welding and the culinary arts program, it's going to add this Take Flight aerospace component to its portfolio. That also requires a new facility. And so as I reported, I think at the last board meeting, we have entered into a purchase agreement. It's contingent on some engineering work and some environmental work to purchase land for this at roughly at the intersection of Route 35 and Route 68 in Xenia City. So it will move the Career Center much closer to the geographic center of the county.
The whole Career Center?
The whole
or
Career
just this
Center.
program?
Nope, the whole Career Center.
Oh my God.
And also, you know, sort of closer, frankly, to the population center of the county as well. So it's a big deal. This thing has been percolating for probably 3 years as we've been at it, and our superintendent, Dave Deskins, has talked to virtually everybody he could find to talk to about this. And that's everybody from the governor's office down to local manufacturers, former governors. Former Governor Taft has actually been quite a cheerleader for this project. They live still in the county. And so, yeah, so this is the culmination of a long, several-year process of trying to plan for this.
Thank you. So I can talk a little bit about the next step now. So the idea is that Dave Deskins, the superintendent of Greene County Career Center, has asked each school board to essentially support the initiative by passing this resolution at board meetings. I did not put it on the agenda today to approve, and there's a couple of reasons why, but mostly because I felt like given the failure of our levy in May and what we heard from a lot of community members about affordability and all the reasons why they could not support a school levy for Yellow Springs schools, it gave me pause as to whether this community and or our board would really want to support this resolution promoting and asking people essentially to support this bond issue in November. It is only 1.03 mils. However, you know, that's 1.3 mils less than maybe our school district can go for potentially going forward. And it's something to consider and think about as we go forward. So really, the reason I'm bringing it up now is I just want to make sure when I go back to Dave, I say, well, at least we had a chance to talk about it at a board meeting and see where our board was. And then if it turns out after this discussion between now and the next meeting, the board wants to support it, you can certainly let me know, and we can put it on for next month if we need to. So, but I just want to see if we could have a quick discussion publicly about it and see where people are.
Yes, go ahead, Sylvia.
So, I had read this ahead, and then I wasn't sure if it was on this month's agenda or next month's agenda. But I feel like the only thing I would want to say right now, and this could be entirely on me, but I read this, I've read it like 3 times, I would never have gotten out of it what you said about the concerns about the existing building, or the fact that this is describing the movement of the entire Career Center to a new location. I read this as describing a new area of programming that they want to add for a lot of probably good reasons, and that it's asking for our support with that. So I will just say that concerns me then, because I don't feel like this describes everything that I just heard.
Yeah, but if you did translate everything I just said into a resolution, it would have gone on for 4 pages. So,
But it also would have been fully informative,
Well-
which I would prefer.
Anybody else have any thoughts?
That could be just me, and I'm fine with that, but I
No,
just wanted to
I
say that.
Also feel blindsided by I did not know that it was going to be relocating. In fact, with words like continuation and expansion of programming, that to me only felt like, oh, okay, they're going to be adding some sort of wing. I'm not saying that it's deceiving in any way, but I feel like it's not letting people know exactly what it is you're supporting right here. I guess I would just sort of say what Sylvia's saying right now. Because had you not said that, that's exactly what I thought was just, oh yeah, why even ask people for, that just sounds like a good idea without any support if you're just gonna add this great Take Flight project. And so hearing that, it's like, okay, I'd like to know more about what's then being taken out, wherever it's going to be moved in, and how the community feels about that. Just curious.
Well, I feel like we have at various times supported resolutions by the Career Center, and I feel like I'm a great supporter of education in our community and in our county. So there's a very strong part of me that feels like I want to support this, but given what has just happened in our own community and our district, I feel ambivalent to do that. And to feel like I'm pushing, and I don't feel like I'm pushing, because really what I want to say, I think, we can support a resolution, and it's the voters who will make the decision. And so I feel like if we decide we want to publicly support this, that it is around supporting the Career Center and what they offer our students that we don't particularly offer them here within our community. So I feel like it's a quandary, a personal quandary, but I feel like those things that coexist, and I appreciate the work that's gone into this, and the work that Dave has done to try to promote this. I do have some concerns about the wording too, and obviously this building is not just a 1.03 mil levy, right? I mean,
well, you'd be surprised.
The whole county.
Well, because
Yeah,
if you
if
pull
it's
from
countywide.
all school
yeah,
districts,
excuse
yeah,
me,
you're
yes,
pulling
yes,
from
yes,
multiple
yes,
districts.
yes, I'm sorry,
Right.
yes, of course, yeah. So anyway, I just want to say that it creates a dilemma for sure.
You were just giving me the hairy eyeball.
Just
with the
wondering
total.
how much 1.03 mils is for the
Yeah,
county.
I
What
should
does that
know
equate
that,
to?
and I don't off the top of my head.
Total
I
dollar,
can't now,
yeah.
because we've kicked around so many different figures which have to do with whether the state was going to kick in some money and whether it wasn't, so I have lost track of what the total, what this would be, and I apologize for
But
that.
for our community, we know a mill is,
About $125,000.
So I just remembered part of a conversation I had with Aida, and it's a really good, when we talked about this, I think, in our meeting, is a really important point I need to share with all of you, which is that we have been asked as a board, you have been asked as a board to support lots of other levies within the community of Yellow Springs, and they've come and asked, whether it's village council or township or whatever it may be. And since I've been on the board for 8 years, this board has not publicly supported any other levy by any other entity. Not that you won't now, because this is education, it's our kids essentially, in many ways will benefit from it. So if there's one to probably support, I imagine it's this one. But I do think that's worth sharing, at least, just for you all to consider as you think about this. So.
And let me also just add, and I appreciate you bringing this conversation without bringing it to a vote tonight. So I think we can have a little while to chew on this and decide where to go with it. let me just comment a little bit on, just informationally about the location and moving the whole shebang. So in part, it has to do with the building, and it's just not cost effective to deal with the building that as it currently exists. But the other thing about it is that most other districts, in fact, I think we are the only district, really, who likes the Career Center where it is. It is. Absolutely. I mean, it's 3.5 miles.
Yeah, that's right.
And we don't actually send that many kids. It's a long way from Bellbrook, and those kids have to, you know, and it's a pain, you know, coordinating those buses and all of that. So my fellow board members, my 6 other board members, I think that the idea of moving it, as I said, to a more geographically and populationally centered.
County seat.
Is good news, because it's way up sort of the north end, and it has no visibility. I think that's the other thing that
Well, I'm not
people
even
felt
saying I
frustrated.
disagree with that.
Yeah,
I was just
understand,
wanting to say, I don't get that when I read this.
No, I absolutely, I hear you. As I said, for point of information,
Yeah.
that's part of the discussion here. Nobody can find it unless you get lost, and then you can find it. And it's not convenient to the vast majority of the students who attend each year.
I would then be bragging about the fact that you're relocating it to somewhere else. This is why I'm not, and so I felt the same way when it was like, none of this told me that's what's happening. Now that you put it like that, well then, absolutely put that in here.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I had, so I've been involved obviously in this whole thing, because I've been now on that board for 4 years. I had nothing to do with writing this. This was, I think, just drafted up and shared with boards and board members. So, point about the language, well taken.
It's almost like, look how much more you're getting for your 1 point whatever
Right.
miles than just.
Yeah, right.
Expanded program.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
so we'll
Good.
just table that for now and,
Thank you.
okay, go from there.
Okay, moving on to the administrative portion of the consent calendar, 4.2 through 4.3. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, this is kind of standard stuff, right? Need to say anything
All I'd
about
say
it?
is this is the second year of contracting with Madison Champaign ESC for gifted supervision services. The gifted laws sort of changed, increased their spending a little bit. We have to do some things a little bit differently last year. This is the second year of that.
All right, anybody have anything else? No? Okay, roll call.
Steve, too?
Yes.
Aida?
Yes.
Sylvia?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Moving into the personnel portion of the consent calendar, 4.5, which is about resignations and assignments and so forth. I don't think there's anything that stands out per se, right?
Yeah, the only thing I'd say for sure, and I shared this with all of you, this is kind of we're packing a lot of sort of new shifts and things like that into this. So remember we talked several months ago about this idea of shifting from the PBL coaching model to this new kind of model we're doing. This is sort of making it happen officially. Again, I just want to stress that this was something our coaches from DBEC there, from their teams and teachers, felt like they really wanted to happen. And so we are pretty excited about this. What are you putting out?
Well, you spelled her name wrong. You get
Oh, it's a Z
back.
instead of an S?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Where?
Elizabeth Simon.
But you get Elizabeth Simon back.
Yeah.
It's the other Elizabeth Simon.
Oh,
Sorry.
I haven't met her.
Did you get that done? You get that done?
Yeah, we'll correct that, yeah. So you're approving LEISABETH. So, and then Margaret Swanson, just a lovely person. Interviewing her was great. They live in the district. I've not really had a chance to meet them before, but they're a young family that moved here, and she's going to be great in that role. And potentially, if other things open up, she would be a good candidate to use in other positions if it worked out for her long term. But she was really impressed interviewing her. She was a former librarian at Wright State, I think, or actually that's what she's doing right now. So, as well as she's also an administrator at preschool in Centerville, and so really interesting jobs she's had. So, yeah. What's that? She's a parent, yeah, so she's a Millsmont parent as well. And then there's all the mentors for the year, so.
Okay, any other questions?
She's coached for us.
Did you want
Volleyball, she's our volleyball coach.
And swimming.
Yeah, well, swimming too, that's right.
Did you want to say anything about how Susan's hours are going to be?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, yeah, it's, I don't know that she's not gonna work up to 30 hours in a month, but we're wording it that way just in case, there's something that happens. So probably, I mean, if you think about it, 60 hours a month is 15 hours a week. So it's not that many hours. I think there'll be days that Deeper Learning Training Center, she'll be working 10-hour days on those days potentially. And so that'll happen twice a month. And so that might increase the hours just from those 2 days that happen. That's not gonna happen every month, obviously. Just the same with the executive assistant role. There may be days where EMIS data is due, tomorrow, and Stephanie is still having a hard time getting it through, and we need Susan to come and help her work through it. It could take 4 or 5 hours to do, up to 4 or 5 hours to do that. So that's mostly, it'll be though phone calls, I'm having Susan keep her time sheet, and recording her time in 15-minute increments, and then turning that into our office every pay period. So that's how that works. As long as Don's okay with that method of reporting.
So it'll be by each position.
Yeah, I think it could combine them together. I would love to have done that, but it just
Yeah.
makes sense. So, especially since the executive coach mentoring role will go away sooner than the DLTC probably will. So.
Okay, so roll call, huh? Right? Anybody has anything else?
I didn't hear the motion in a second, I'm sorry.
Oh, motion,
Second.
Steve squared.
We did that.
I can't remember.
Aika?
Yes.
Sylvia?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
All right. Moving into board communications. Okay, we need to appoint a legislative liaison and a treasurer pro tem. Those were roles that Sean had. And because Capital Conference is coming up, well, not because, but anyway, those roles need to be taken care of, just especially, I guess, the treasurer pro tem. So, what's not on here, but can we add this, or is the vice president appointment? Because that would make sense to do with the pro tem, because that's usually what happens, right? There's a- All right, so what we're looking at is vice president, role of vice president, because Sean had that position. We're looking for a legislative liaison, and typically the treasurer pro tem has been vice president. So I'm just wondering if somebody has a nomination for vice president.
I would like to nominate Sylvia Ellis.
I would like to second that.
I'll third it.
Yeah,
Feel the love.
you betcha.
Did you arm wrestle for who would go first? Thank you. I'm honored and happy to serve with you all. If you'll have me.
In that role.
As long as it doesn't mean I also have to be legislative liaison.
You do have to do
The whole,
That's
the
good.
whole, the whole McGill.
It all goes together. I know I have to do treasurer for town. Okay,
Well, thank you for doing that.
thank you.
Thank you for the nomination. Okay, so legislative liaison. I've done it.
I nominated Aida.
What I said
No,
is,
I think
More information.
So,
Those goes.
yeah, more information.
Yeah, well, you frequently are, get newsletters if you're registered. Sometimes, as a legislative liaison, you might want to be one of the delegates to the Capital Conference, because
Yes.
you'll go into the special meeting of the delegates.
Oh, right, yeah.
You really haven't lived until you've done that.
Yeah.
I've done it, I think you're doing it, yeah.
yeah.
Last time, no, he didn't.
No,
No,
Sean,
that was
Sean was the only
he
one who
kept
really
telling
loved
me that I
that,
should
yeah.
check it out.
Sean loves
Yeah, no,
giving.
it's calling your name.
Yeah, all
It's
right.
certainly, it's certainly worth,
If nominated, I'll take those.
yeah, no, yeah, great, thank you.
First and second. Third, Christine McQueen.
And make sure it's McQueen.
And the Capitol Conference is during the
It's like
actual
when we were-
conference,
yes.
right?
Yeah,
That's what-
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a special time.
It's just, there's like this whole,
Yeah.
of the
There's
hours.
the, like, it's like
Yeah.
the hours and then you stand up for the
And
voting
then you
and then,
got
yeah.
yeah, he told me all
You know,
that.
there's, and when like they call for like, you know, they want board members to sort of perhaps talk to a congressional person
Yeah.
or something, you know, you'll get that notification and stuff, and you don't get that, do that, but.
The halls of
but,
power.
You know, that's part of what the role is.
There'll be lots left over from Sean's roles that Steve Conn can take over, right?
Well,
cleared it out pretty
hopefully
quickly.
we'll have,
That was a list.
hopefully there will be somebody else
I'm not wearing a
joining
bow
us.
tie. Let's just put
Soon.
it that way.
I hear that.
You're not wearing. All right, okay, well, thank you both, well, everybody. Okay, moving into the.
I need to do roll call.
Oh, we do have to do that?
Sylvia?
Yes.
Is that,
Steve?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
oh, because it's an official position?
We decided we would because we board approved them in January.
Oh, yeah, okay, great. Thank you, sorry. Okay, 5.2, OSBA Capital Conference. Do we have to do that today? Oh, yeah, okay.
Has to be done in August because I have to send OSBA, who is going to be the legislative liaison and the delegate, and then he needs backup in case he can't go.
Right.
I don't know that it's critical that someone absolutely attend, but we do have to still appoint the delegate and alternate.
So I'll just, once again, because of my teaching schedule, I'll only be able to be there on Tuesday.
Okay.
So,
Do you want to be the alternate? I'm happy to do it.
I'd rather not.
Okay.
That's all right.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Should be able to.
Okay.
That's
I'll be the alternate. Okay, now I have to pull out our calendars to figure out our special meeting of the month
Right.
because of an appointment and because of.
And I wrote et cetera because it's really going to be,
Yeah,
it's not just that, right?
yeah.
are we thinking next week?
That would probably be good, just so we don't run into any deadline issues. Right? Are you freer next week?
Well, so I have Green County Career Center board meeting on Wednesday.
Wednesday.
So I would, of next week, right, we're always through Wednesdays.
Are we thinking evening, or are we trying for a morning, or what are we?
I think it depends on people's schedules, right?
And Monday is probably out for me as
Okay.
well, so I would prefer Tuesday, Thursday of next, if we're gonna do it next
If
week.
it's in the evening. you could
That's
do
okay.
Tuesday, Thursday, 'cause
I could do Monday in the evening, sorry, I could do Monday in the evening. I should be back from campus.
I can't do Tuesday. That's next week. How's everybody else?
Is this the kind of meeting that would, you might want to do in the morning, since it may not take as much time?
I think we have,
It won't take-
appointment
right.
I think we have an appointment we have to do with a personnel issue.
Yeah, but
I
you
think
can have
it's
some
more-
executive session time too, potentially.
Yeah, because I think it's more than the short meeting we thought it might be, depending on, I mean, which doesn't mean it can't be in the morning, I'm just saying, I don't think it's gonna be like 10 minutes, but depends, or it could be. I don't know. No, okay.
So does anybody have any preference for me? It's gonna be harder for me to schedule a morning at
Okay.
this point.
So you want to do
Okay.
a week from tonight,
Yeah, that sounds good.
which is the what day of the week?
The 16th,
Thursday the 16th.
does that work?
Thursday, the 16th.
What time?
7 o'clock again?
Sounds good, isn't it?
Yeah?
Thursday the 16th at 7 PM, is that what we're saying?
Does that meet our
Is this special or
timelines?
executive?
It should.
Both.
Okay, gotcha.
It's post 10 days and pre 30 days.
Yeah.
Did you say 7 p.m.?
Yeah.
Okay. 16th at 7 o'clock. All right. Do you have anything?
Well, I think we've spent a goodly amount of time talking about the career center tonight, so I'll pass.
Moving into any other board member items?
I do have one of those.
Okay.
I just wanted to be happy and proud of and to thank John Gudgel again for the Young People of Color pool party that took place 2 weeks ago, maybe, give or take.
Yeah,
Apparently,
postponed, so yeah.
yeah, fabulously successful, lots of current students, lots of alum came back for this. So it sounded like it was a great time. I had some children involved in that, so yeah.
It was, I was there. It was a good time.
Yeah. So thanks Steve as well for all the adults who helped put that together.
And then the next thing is that there's an alumni soccer game happening this weekend, I believe, Saturday.
It's Saturday,
Yeah, Saturday at 6 for
Girls at 6,
Women
boys
at
women
at
at 6
6,
and
women at 7.
7:30. Guys,
7:30.
something like that?
First
Oh,
high
it
school
was-
sporting event.
Oh, wow.
Isn't it
Hey,
Aren't they 6 and 8?
They're much cajoling.
Anyway, it's in the newspaper.
I'm gonna flag
Yeah.
Joe for the girls.
But if you show up to support the young
Coaches
women,
said they
it's
wanted-
okay, you'll be there when the
Yeah.
guys start playing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And
We should,
then,
because I think they're looking really, it's gonna be really
Even if they
interesting.
weren't, we should show up to
So,
them,
yeah.
because, yeah.
okay, and then the first
One year
day
they
of
should be
school, hello, is on the
No.
24th,
Yes.
right?
Nobody mentioned that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that.
And when are the, what do we call them, open
Open
houses still?
houses.
When are those?
Monday and
Monday the
Wednesday.
20th.
And mine's the 22nd, Wednesday the 22nd, 5:30.
Okay, and board members, just if you're available on Monday, the 20th, there's a
Thank you for-
welcome back
I wish.
breakfast
Oh, yeah.
that you might want to join us all in, to welcome back teachers and
Great
staff.
if you all could be there. It's a good chance to talk to teachers and kind of get around and be part of that. Obviously, are you ready to, you can speak again and address the group, is that right?
8:30?
It's on the back
8
of your,
8 to 8:30 is
this
the
handout
breakfast.
from Mario has it on the back.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, good.
It's very handy.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Great.
the schedule.
Okay, I know, it's kind of hard to get, it's hard to believe this is all happening.
Oh, no, right on there too. Oh.
We're actually starting a little later than most schools, like a week later than most schools.
Oh, I think Henry is,
Which is
yeah.
fascinating, you know?
Starting this week.
It's kind of scary why schools are starting earlier, right? I mean, some of it's facilities orientation, but some of it is because of legitimate effort to beat the standardized testing timetable, you know? Which is fascinating, that's their idea, their goal.
Well,
We
that's-
could start earlier at Mills Lawn because we don't have air conditioning, quality air conditioning at least in this building, so.
Well, that should be changing, I would hope, because now that we're gonna have another new teacher evaluation happening, right? I just heard
It
about.
doesn't
Oh,
take
system.
effect until 2021 though. There'll be no
Oh.
changes for the next 2 years.
Until there are changes.
Right.
That's part of dealing with the testing aspect of it, right? How they're gonna-
It helps a little bit, yeah, it'll make a big difference.
Okay, I
Real
think,
quick, 365, wanted to thank Morgan from Bus Shoes. That was,
Oh, that's great, wasn't it?
Gudgel, yeah, that
You want
was.
to talk about that, because I think that's a really cool event.
Yeah, we went to Ripley, Ohio to see the John P. Parker House and the John Rankin House. And the Young POC, 365 Young POC was able to go. It was an all-day event and it was amazing. I actually recorded it and I'm gonna do a slideshow because HRC helped sponsor it, but we also wanted to thank
oh, cool.
the school for the bus and the superintendent for allowing the bus to be used to get there and back. It was extremely helpful and useful. And the bus driver, whose name
Jared?
escaped me, yes.
That was great, I think. It's a great guy.
Also, yeah, just very right. Amazing dude. Took his time out on a Saturday. So we just wanted to make sure that was, and then of course, Gudgel just for making sure it all went smooth as it always does and Dr. Magruder.
Well,
I don't know where it knows, but whatever.
Well, I want to piggyback on this to thank Professor Kevin Magruder at Antioch who has been working mostly with middle schoolers, I think, to train them as tour guides, to do some of these tours about African American Yellow Springs. I finally went on one about a month ago, and they're just terrific. The two of these middle schoolers, it was just amazing. And Kevin has worked really hard to do that, so please, thanks to him. But what a great opportunity for the middle
I trained
schoolers.
him. He.
Oh, all right.
I trained him how to give tours. He does all.
He does the history. Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm the historian, all right, so.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah. Right, in fact, we have one coming this Saturday.
Yep.
Which will be about black land ownership in Yellow Springs.
But these are middle schoolers who are so self-possessed, they are so, just composed and dealing with crowds of people. I mean, it's just really terrific skills to learn, and they do a great job, and I just had a ball.
Communicative.
Yeah, oh yeah, articulate,
Yeah.
knowledgeable, enthusiastic. I had a wonderful time.
Awesome, excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, well, and then, Jack, you must have had something to do with how the Yellow Springs Community Theater ended up into the high school for their second weekend, but.
Yeah, I was actually on vacation.
But anyway,
But yeah,
that
it's
was
great.
that, thanks for that flexibility and staff who helped to make that happen, and
I think Lori pulled it together in about an hour and a half.
Wow.
it was
From when I gave her the go-ahead. I was actually at the beach, and I got back to my room, and I looked at my phone and had a text message, and called her real quick, and we made it happen.
Yeah,
That's good.
yeah, amazing. So, anyway. Okay, I think we are done, huh? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Roll call.
All in favor?
Yay.
Yes.
yes.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Did you
I do want to point, yeah, exactly, right. I do want to point out that at our July meeting when Mario wasn't here, we were out of here at about 7:30